I used to sit in this little apartment, and it was a room. As a matter of fact, the room was so small, I remember I was able to open up the window and close the door while sitting on the bed at the same time. It was like 8 feet by 8 feet by 9 feet. But the one thing about that room, there was really very little distraction. So I would sit there propped up in bed, and I'd go out with my big pen and legal pad and just start writing these stories. And most of them were very, very trivial. But there was something about the process of unrealized dreams. I was always brought back to this subject because I think it's one of the most enduring subjects and one of the most difficult passages for people to accept, that they never were realized in their own lifetime, that they just didn't get that shot. That festered in my mind for quite a while, and then eventually, after Lords of Flatbush, I decided it was a time to come to California. So I went to California, and I moved in the Valley, and things weren't going very, very well there. As a matter of fact, I had to go out and try to sell my dog because it was either do that or he just was not going to be very well fed around the house. And then one night, I went to see Muhammad Ali. And what I saw was pretty extraordinary. I saw a man they called the Bayonne Bleeder, who didn't have a chance at all against the greatest fighting machine, supposedly, that ever lived.
Running back, slips a punch to his left. Oh! A vicious shot to the rib of Muhammad Ali, and what a surprise! Chuck Wepner gets to the body.
And for one brief moment, this supposed stumblebum turned out to be magnificent in the fact that he lasted and knocked the champion down. I said, boy, if this isn't a metaphor for life. His entire life crystallized at that moment. He will be remembered for all eternity, at least among the fight fans. He did something extraordinary. I said, now that is probably what I need as a catalyst for an idea. A man who's going to stand up to life and take one shot and maybe go the distance. So I started to write. And it was one of those writing frenzies. And 3 days later, I came up with the script of Rocky. Now, the script by no means was a finished piece of material. It was probably about 90 pages, and maybe 10% of it remained in the final script, but it was done. I first met Bob Chartoff and Irwin Winkler, and I believe I was there on a casting call. So we're talking a little bit, and I guess I really wasn't right for the acting part. And on the way out, I said, oh, I don't know if it matters, but I do a little bit of writing. He goes, really? I said, yeah, I'm writing this story. I have this thing about wrestlers, and I might do something about boxing. Well, he goes, well, bring it around. And I thought, if I hadn't stopped on the way out, that's why I tell all actors or writers, don't give up. Keep talking. Eventually, you might hit a nerve somewhere, and they go, come on back. And if they didn't say, come on back, or bring it later and let's see what you've developed, I wouldn't be sitting here. So I have to give incredible credit to their insight and their patience, and they're willing to take a chance. Originally, when I brought the script to them, they were fairly enthusiastic about it. The one thing they were not enthusiastic about was me playing the part, and I really can't blame them. At the time, Ryan O'Neal was a candidate, Burt Reynolds, Robert Redford, Jimmy Caan, and they all, were at the top of their game. And so I could see it, but there was something inside of me that this opportunity is never going to come around. And I really wasn't used to money, and I had no idea of what I would be missing. But the temptation started to come forward. At first it was $25 grand, then $100,000. I go, I never heard of $100,000, because I had like $106 in the bank, and like I said, I had to sell my dog, and things were not looking very, very good. My $40 car had just blown up, so I was taking a bus to work. And still, it didn't matter. I wanted to stick with it. Then it went up to $150,000, $175,000, and it went up to $250,000. Now my head was starting to spin, and it went up to $330,000. And probably, I heard it went up to $360,000. And I thought, all right, you've really managed poverty very well. You've got this down to a science. You really don't need much to live on. I had like sort of figured it out. So I was not in any way used to the good life. So I thought, you know what? If I know in the back of my mind, if I sell this script and it does very, very well. I'm going to jump off a building, and if I'm not in it, there's no doubt about it, I'm going to leap in front of a train. I'm going to be very, very upset. So this is one of those things where you just roll the dice and you fly by the proverbial seat of your pants. Say, all right, I got to try it. I got to just do it. I may be totally wrong, and I'm going to be taking a lot of people down with me, but I just believe in it. We didn't have really the money to shoot a normal union film at that time in Philadelphia, so we would travel in a van. I would jump out of the van, and we were working with the handheld camera at the time with Garrett Brown, and it was somewhat experimental. And he'd film me running through shopping malls and up down the steps and flights, curved corridors along the river, until finally my legs basically gave out and I'm like writhing on the ground, and I want to rise up and say, John, I'm dying here. And he goes, no, use it. Use the pain. I said, for what? I mean, I'm in misery. He goes, well, no, it's giving your character, it's giving him some depth. I said, it's giving me bruises. It's giving me like agony. I can't sleep at night. Then finally, it was being shown at the Directors Guild, and this was going to be the test. And there was about 900 people invited, and it was a packed crowd, and the movie was playing terribly. My mother was sitting next to me, and the laughs weren't coming where they're supposed to, and the fight itself seemed to be listless, the response was, and I sat there as everyone filed out of the theater, and I couldn't believe it. I said, Mom, I really blew it. It was all like, I don't know, it was nice while it lasted, but I guess when you get down and you show it to the big boys, they're just not buying it. Anyway, I sat there and literally there was no one left in the theater because I was humiliated and saddened by the whole thing. And even, I walked her out, and I was walking down the steps, and there's 3 flights down, first flight, second flight, and then by the time I turned for the 3rd flight, the entire audience was down there. There was 900 people waiting, and they started to applaud, and I mean truly applaud. And I said, how could you doubt me, Mom? I'm shocked. And it's like, I just completely came apart. And there'll never be a moment like that ever. I mean, I truly was over. I said, this is it. I'm just gonna, go back home, take my dog, and go back into, trying to eke out a living. And they were all there. And they responded in a way, it's like, I don't know if that's the way they did things in Hollywood, but they saved it up, and I'll never get over that moment. I just looked at all these people, and they were applauding. And it's been all downhill since. Rocky never expected to win. Never. He knew it. He was that much of a realist. And I admired the character for that, because so often I had gone to fight films or sporting films. Yes, we're going to go out there, we're going to knock him out, you're going to win. I said, no, because I'm not going to win. I'm going to get destroyed. But if I can just be lucid, if I can still be standing on my feet, you know what? Then life isn't so bad. And I think, again, symbolically, at the very end of our lives, if we can still say, we were never humbled, we were knocked down, but we got up, and I can say, I lived life with integrity, and I took all the blows, as the song says, and I still prevailed. I think that's a good epitaph for anyone, and that's what I tried to capture in this film. But more importantly, I also realized that you can't be alone. To really succeed, no man really is an island.